I'm Dana Young. I'm the director of the Center for Political Communication, and I'm a professor in political science and communication.
I'm Lindsay Hoffman. I'm a professor in the Department of Communication with a joint appointment in political science, and I'm also the director of engagement for UD's Center for Political Communication. I think it's going to help. I think it's going to help people understand campaigns and issues a little bit better. It can distill information in easily digestible ways for uninformed voters, because I'm hearing from my students, they can't pay attention to anything anymore. With TikTok and everything else, they don't have the time to really focus and spend a lot of time on these issues.
I think all of that's probably true. I think that's probably possible. My question would be, how many people would actually use it for the purpose of like copying and pasting a news story into like a ChatGPT to figure out like, okay, what are the big themes here? And I guess my broader concern would be not how regular folks will use AI, but how people with bad intentions might use AI. I also think that when it comes to our ability to discern truth from fiction, just the mere existence of AI is itself making citizens more nervous about like, can I even know what is true and what's false?
But if we can teach people how to use this technology for good and how it can be a useful resource while also warning them, it's basically a media literacy issue. You know, it's AI literacy. This should be taught to, our students just like media literacy is.
The trouble here is it's not necessarily about the administrations of the elections themselves. It's really concern about what AI is going to do to people's faith in those electoral processes. So I think we know that AI has the ability to streamline all kinds of industrial processes, technological processes. So maybe AI can, yes, make vote counts quicker, etc. My concern is on the side of citizens understanding that AI is even being used, then being concerned about who is programming the technology, who's responsible for creating or inputting the large language models that would then create those outputs.
I definitely agree with you, and one of my variables of interest in a lot of my research is intellectual humility, so I'm willing to say, like, okay, I could be wrong about this, but I do think that with the recent news that Georgia, for example, is going to hand count all of their ballots, which is going to slow the process down and create a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of potential for human error. So I'm on the fence on this one.
I wish I could see it. I just can't see it. I mean, given that we have images and videos and text that people are able to selectively perceive as real or fake in accordance with their own worldview. And now that's kind of amped up because everyone understands that AI is so advanced. My concern is simply that the existence of this technology is going to amp up that sort of selective perception, selective interpretation, such that people can just deny the reality of things that don't comport with their beliefs. And I see that as something that's just going to make the fights fightier, and the emotions get more heightened, and people become more entrenched in their identities and how they view the world.
Well, and I certainly hear where you're coming from. And I always teach my students about Walter Lippmann's idea about there's the world outside and the pictures in our heads. So even when we're dealing with a completely real environment, we're still all seeing completely different things. So
True.
Now when you are interjecting actual false and fabricated images, it has that potential. So if we have what I encourage my students in my technology and politics class to be is philosophical engineers. If we have engineers who are thinking in terms of moral philosophy and what kind of good can come out of creating these new technologies, we can use AI for good. I'm not sure. It could go either way. I hope that people will use it for good, but I know that people are also going to use it for bad. So I think it's up to us to come together as a nation and really decide, like, this is what I tell my students, like, if they get into an argument about something, like, do you want the rest of the semester to be like this, like uncomfortable and awkward? Or would you like us to maybe, I don't know, get along and be able to go home and sleep well at night? You know?
My sense is AI going to strengthen American democracy? No, but I think that that's because the real question is, are people and organizations in positions of power going to strengthen or harm democracy? And right now I feel like there's a lot of money to be made in division. There's a lot of money to be made in outrage. And until we can find ways to commodify democratic health, commodify joy, commodify functional interpersonal relationships, and commodify really cross-cutting identities, my fear is that AI just will not have the economic incentives to do something that's helpful.
Absolutely.
Yes. This may be the only thumbs up that I've given, but the reason is because I've survived a hell of a lot worse. So there is, AI will just be a blip. We will survive this. We've survived a lot. We survived a civil war.
Global pandemic.
We will come out the other side, and hopefully we'll be stronger for it.